Speaking to reporters after his victory speech, Gallego explained the reason he was able to win in a tough cycle for the Democrats.
You have to earn every vote. And this was a swing state. And there are 300,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats. I needed to earn the support of all Arizonans. And so I went out and I talked to everybody. And I also didn't agree with them all the time. And they didn't agree with me all the time. But we had respectful conversations. And at the end of the day, we walked away sometimes with support and sometimes we didn't. But I had to make sure that people knew that I was out there talking to them and fighting for them, because hopefully at least then we can build some trust. That's the only thing I would say.
This morning, the New York Times notes after going decades without electing a Democrat to the Senate, Arizona's voters have now done so in 4 successive elections, underscoring the state's shift from reliable conservative stronghold to competitive battleground. Voters backed Ms. Sinema in 2018, picked Senator Mark Kelly in a special election in 2020, and then elected him again in 2022.
There's so many things to talk about here, Jim Vandehei. Let's first of all start out by saying that every poll is going to have Democrats up by 47% and they're going to end up by winning by 47 votes. Remember Martha McSally, who was supposedly down in double digits and just barely lost her race a couple of years ago to Mark Kelly. We have the same thing here where Kari Lake was down 8, 10, 12 points. It ended up being a really tight race. But overall, a couple of things. I mean, if you're Donald Trump, this makes the size of your margin in those states even more impressive because he outran Democrats in all of these swing states. That's the first thing. The second thing, though, of course, and Jim, you and I have been around a very long time, and we've seen this. First 2, 3, 5 days after an election, you have the media's hair on fire saying, this was the greatest landslide, or more to the point, this is the greatest defeat the Republicans have ever had, or this is the greatest defeat the Democrats have ever had. You start looking at this, just writing it down. Republican Senate candidates lost in Arizona, they lost in Wisconsin, they lost in Nevada, they lost in Michigan. There were no Senate races in Georgia for them to lose. And in North Carolina, no Senate races for them to lose. But there was a governor's race, and the Democrats won there. So the Democrats won in every major swing state race they could win by in a year that Donald Trump just ran the board in all of these swing states in a way that wasn't even close. So I'm curious, what do you take also of, again, there's just so much here. It's fascinating. Yeah. What do you also make of how progressive Gallego was? Very progressive member of the House, winning in a state like Arizona, who, again, like we quoted the Times, now elected 4 Democrats in a row.
Yeah, I think, listen, Donald Trump has claimed, I think he called it an unprecedented mandate. You can claim a mandate whether you win by 1 vote or you win by 100 million. I think for Democrats looking at the results, obviously Trump performed fabulously in almost every single state and district. Vice President Harris way underperformed. Like, that was really the story of the election. But then what you're talking about here is it goes back to we live in a 50-50 country. We have since 2000, and we basically have a change election every single period. And what you're seeing in Michigan, what you see in Wisconsin, what you see in Arizona is that 50-50 dynamic, and you see politicians who are able to divorce themselves from Biden and Harris because they're not necessarily seen as, quote unquote, the federal government. They're trying to focus on topics that people in Arizona care about, people in Wisconsin care about. Right, so when Democrats are doing their autopsy, I don't know, maybe I would look at the candidates who are winning, figure out what are they talking about, what are they not talking about, and that's probably the roadmap for them to get back into power in the off-year elections.
And it's a brilliant insight. Look, Willie, at what these swing state Democrats were talking about, what they were not talking about, and how they won. But you know, this is always it's always come down to the power of the presidential candidate, right? It's like, you know, when Ronald Reagan got elected, and I know I've said this a lot, but it bears repeating given this news. Reagan was there and Republicans were like, hey, we've got a new coalition. No, Ronald Reagan had the coalition. It was not transferable. Then Bill Clinton won for 8 years. And then Barack Obama gets elected, and we're like, oh, the Obama majority, it's for the Democrats, the rise of the ascendant. No, that was Barack Obama's majority. That was Barack Obama's mandate. And here we have the same thing with Donald Trump, who uniquely goes in and wins working class voters and wins the type of voters that Democrats always won. And people are going, oh, you know, they go, this is the new Trump coalition and it's going to rule for 1,000. No, it is specific to Donald Trump. It is not transferable. A lot of people thought Hillary Clinton could be Bill Clinton. She couldn't be Bill Clinton because that was a unique set of political skills. So you take Reagan, you take Obama, you take Clinton, and now you take Donald Trump. They have a unique set of skills, and it's not transferable. And the fact that Republicans are, let's put it, we'll put it in a positive sense. The fact that Democrats won in Arizona with a very progressive candidate, one in Wisconsin, one in Nevada, one in Michigan, in the Senate races, one in North Carolina in the gubernatorial race, against, of course, a whack job. But they won all of these swing states. And I guess in these major races, they're undefeated in swing states because there weren't Senate races in Georgia or North Carolina. And Dave McCormick, of course, Dave McCormick is the one exception to the rule. Dave McCormick, though, as we've said on this show time and time again, is a really strong candidate. And he would have won 2 years ago if Donald Trump would have endorsed him then. So anyway, I know I'm going on a lot, but this is really sort of looking back and sort of the second look at what happened last week. And this was not a Republican landslide. This was a Trump sweep.
It was a Trump sweep, and when we say it was an overwhelming victory, we're talking about his sweep of the swing states, which was overwhelming and decisive, of course. And this is in no way diminishing what the next 4 years could look like under Donald Trump. It is his Washington for at least the next 2 years. We're seeing his appointments roll out. We'll get into some of that as well, what that means for immigrants, what it means for women, and you can go down the list. But to your point, I mean, we've all heard the panic. I heard it a lot yesterday. I was marching in the Veterans Day parade and on the subway to and from, people coming up and worried and panicked and wanting to talk about. I get all that, and some of it is well-founded. What I have been saying, though, is exactly what you and Jim are saying, though. Donald Trump, well, he's winning right now by about 3 million votes. That's the same margin Hillary Clinton beat him in 2016 in the popular vote. And if you look inside these swing states and everyone says, what happened to the polling? They all finish effectively, except for Arizona, as margin of error races. I'll go through them. Wisconsin, Donald Trump won by less than 1 point. Michigan, he won by 1.5 points. Nevada by 2 points. Pennsylvania by 2 points. Georgia by 2 points, North Carolina by 3 points, and then Arizona 5.5 points. So why do I say that? Because it was overwhelming in the sense that he won these states. But if you actually look at who voted and the vote total, this was, in fact, as we've been saying for months and months and months, an incredibly close race. Not by the electoral vote count. He won that widely, and he won all those swing states impressively. But if you need a reason to take a deep breath, is that this was a close race. And the fight is still on if you're a Democrat.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You look at Arizona, that's fascinating. There's like a 7-point swing between Donald Trump's 5-point victory and Ruben Gallego right now 2-point victory. So you're right. So much of it has to do with the candidate. He's the first Hispanic senator in the state of Arizona. He's a veteran. Hispanic men voted for him in much higher numbers than they voted for Kamala Harris. So a lot of different things going. But, you know, Katty K, if you're Donald Trump this morning and you're seeing this news, this just seems to strengthen your hand with Republicans in the organizing caucus going, listen, you guys can't win these, and women, you can't win these swing states. Like you lost in Michigan, you lost in Wisconsin, you lost in North Carolina, the gubernatorial race, you lost in Arizona, you lost in Nevada. I won all those states. It seems to me as he organizes Republicans and he starts saying this is who you should pick as your majority leader, and this is what you should do in the House, it seems to me it only strengthens Donald Trump's hand.
Yeah, and Carrie Lake really ran as a kind of mini-me Trump, was very close to the former president-elect, appeared with him whenever she could, denied the results of the 2020 election, denied the results of her 2022 run for the governorship of Arizona, did all of the classic Trump things, prevaricated on kind of the issue of abortion, was super pro a federal ban, then ran back from that. And she still couldn't make it because I've spent time with her. She's a skilled political operative, but she's not Donald Trump. And I think that is the message to the Republican Party from Trump is, this is my party and you need to do things my way. Now, what his way is, we're still going to have to find out because it will depend on some more of these appointments being actually confirmed. But he has taken over the party, and it doesn't mean, I think you're right, as the Democratic Party now goes into its kind of autopsy of 2024, it has to think it has to fight the battle of 2028, not the last battle. So it has to think, where is the party going to be in 2028, and what are the bigger picture trends? Take Donald Trump out of the picture for 2028. What are the trends that we've seen from 2016, 2020, and 2024? Which are the groups the Democratic Party has been losing and why? And work on that rather than think, okay, we've got to fight this candidate again because he's not going to be there in 2028. And whoever replaces him may well not be as strong as he is.
Yeah, another takeaway here is that election denialism is non-transferable. Voters did not hold it against Donald Trump, that he never conceded 2020, that he never acknowledged that he lost. But the big lie candidates who ran in the 2022 midterms, that includes Mastriano in Pennsylvania, that includes Carrie Lake then, they all lost. And now we have Carrie Lake losing again. So some voters simply don't want to tolerate that, it seems, unless it comes from Trump, some Republicans. But you're right. There are some silver linings here for Democrats. They're able to win in these battleground states, Nevada too, as well as Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin. Those are candidates who tailored their messages to their individual states, defying some of the larger national trends. Pennsylvania hasn't been called yet. It does look like it's going Republican, and that's important too, because that would give them 53 seats in the Senate, which allows Trump and the Republicans to lose Susan Collins occasionally, lose Lisa Murkowski occasionally, and still be able to get things done. Those are the only two Republicans, at least for now, we think will defy the White House. And that's going to be really important here as we get into a little later, as his appointments are starting to roll out. And later on, we also have this week Republicans picking a Senate majority leader. But there are some building blocks here for Democrats as that party autopsy well underway here, just a week since the election.
Yeah, and Jim Vandehei, Democrats can look at Arizona and I think take solace from the fact that they've now won 4 Senate races there in a row after not winning any in a long time. But let's talk about the one swing state that Republicans won in these Senate races.